What is up? My mic is on. Good stuff. Headed to work. It's Monday morning. Gonna go to Reddit for a topic today. This one is titled, it's from ExperiencedDevs. It's ExperiencedDevs. It's titled, do you guys do stuff for your company in your spare time? What's everyone gonna say? Hell no! But I thought it was kind of an interesting one. I didn't even scroll too far on ExperiencedDevs, but this was near the top for me, and I figured why not? It could be kind of interesting. So friendly reminder, if you want questions answered so I don't have to go to Reddit, just leave them below in the comments. Otherwise, if you want to write something and be kept anonymous, just look for Dev Leader on social media. It's also my main YouTube channel with edited videos instead of vlog entries like this. And yeah, just you can. Nick Cosentino on LinkedIn, send me a message with your question. You can add more context and I'll keep you anonymous that way, because comments are not anonymous. They're for everyone else to see as well. Okay, so this is an interesting one because I think probably most people are thinking like, well, why would I do that? You know, I'm getting paid a salary or something. Why would I ever go out of my way to go spend more of my personal time doing something for a company and they're not even going to pay me for it? I think there's a couple of reasons, a couple of things to consider. And it's not like just pros or just cons. I think we can look at it from a couple different angles. And I have experience with this because this is what I did nonstop for like 8 years. And if you think about it, if there was nothing positive about doing that, I probably wouldn't have done it for 8 years straight. But also important to call that out because you will be getting probably a bit more of a biased perspective on why I thought there were good things from that. And as I talk through those, it's important to remember that I'm not saying that's going to be everyone else's lived experience. And in fact, I think I was very fortunate in my experience. And I think that there's probably a lot of other people that don't have the same opportunity that they're put in, and it's probably more of a net negative. Oh, pardon me. I just ate a burrito super fast before recording. I was like, I gotta eat because I haven't eaten yet, and if I don't start driving, I'm gonna be late. But if I eat in the car, then I can't record the vlog. You see where it's going, right? And now I'm gonna be uncomfortable from slamming a burrito in like 5 seconds, but here we are. So a couple things, right? And I don't exactly know how I want to start this off, so I'll probably bounce around a lot. I think that first of all, we want to make sure that like your work-life balance needs to be maintained. That's going to look different for every single person though. Sorry, there's a light out, so the officer conducting traffic just decided to give up. So I was like, I don't know if I'm allowed to just drive through. Like, he kind of just put his hands down and everyone got to do what they wanted. Kind of weird. Yeah, work-life balance is going to be important. That's going to be different for every single person. So for example, if you're doing stuff for your company on your time and your work-life balance is completely shot already, like probably not good. And this is just like the reality, even if it wasn't for your company. If you're like over, stretched too thin doing other things, it could just even be like you got kids, you're taking them to soccer practice and school, and like you don't have any time for yourself, and then you want to layer in one more thing, regardless of what it is, probably a recipe for something that's not very sustainable. So if you're going to do something for work, probably even less sustainable, because for most people, it's probably going to be like, it's work, not necessarily something that I, love more than anything else for most people. And if they're not compensating you for it, then probably feels even worse. So I think we want to keep that in mind, like first and foremost, right? If it's not going to be sustainable, think twice. I'm not saying that there aren't periods of work or life where you're doing something that's like not really sustainable to push through. But I think you have to do it with awareness, because the danger is that if you don't have awareness and it becomes the new norm, and then things start to degrade, you're like, you're basically depressed or you're burnt out, and you're like, where did this come from? It's from not having awareness of what's going on. And I'm guilty of this a lot, right? Like I kind of stretch myself too thin a lot of the time. So I'm saying this as someone that does this pretty regularly, but awareness is key. So I think that's step one, is making sure that we understand our own circumstances for maintaining work-life balance. Now, what does this relationship look like, right? And it's a hard one to answer, because depending on the person, the company, the situation, like this could vary dramatically from situation to situation. So to just like go slap a blanket response on something like this is really difficult, because we haven't talked about the different variables. So a couple things to consider. Are you being compensated for it? If you are, hey, could be interesting. If you have capacity for it, it's extra money. Like for me so I make a lot of free content, right? Like videos like this, or on my main YouTube channel. On my main YouTube channel, I literally lose money because I'm paying an editor for the videos to go up. So I'm giving my time and money to try and help. But I also, I make paid for courses, right? I make those paid for courses so that I can have an extra revenue stream. So I am taking time outside of work to go try and make extra money on the side. And if that's something that you're interested in, and they're willing to compensate you for transparency and clarity, the courses I make are not for work. I'm just using it as an example of extra time outside of work for extra income. If they're going to pay you or compensate you in some way, that might be something that you want to entertain if you have capacity for it, right? However, I suspect that for a lot of people in this situation, there's not going to be compensation. I had an experience, I'll share this briefly, when I was working at that previous startup. I feel like I was, compensated relatively fairly. Salary was kind of a challenge towards the end, not competitive at all. So that's, one thing. But I was doing, so you've probably seen that TT that's sitting in my driveway. I didn't show it at the beginning of the video today because I was starting it while I was driving, but that TT has a ton of work done to it. There's I don't know, over $150,000 worth of things that have been done to that car. And so at one point I was like, hey, I want to do more things. I was basically dealing with a second engine rebuild in that car. And I'm like, well, I'm working nonstop, and I just had contacted my employer and I said, hey, I know we're not just handing out stock and stuff, so I get it. But I said, is there an opportunity where I could get contracted to do additional work, at an hourly rate? Could we agree on something? And the CTO where I was working, always had additional ideas. It was and I'm not saying this in a negative way, he's an awesome guy, but it was always a challenge to be no, we can't just do one more thing. We can't just do one more thing. And then what would happen is he would go just do it himself and then be like, hey, look, I've done it. So hey, look, here's just the one more thing. It's already done. So I kind of leaned into this and I said, hey, look, if you have one more thing you want done, I said, is there an opportunity where I could go build the prototypes for this outside of working hours and basically for an hourly rate? I said, I feel like personally we can arrive at something that's mutually beneficial. I get compensated for my extra time. It's not just anyone feeling guilty about me working more, because I think they were also pretty aware that I worked a lot, and they're trying to be cognizant of the fact that probably shouldn't just, keep giving, not that they were, but just loading up more work for me, because I will go do it. So I'm getting compensated for it. They're able to kind of advance, more prototypes or other things they want to consider on their product line. And it's done in a way that, like, no offense to the CTO, like, he would tell you he's not the best programmer. It's not his profession. So having it done in a way that can be sustained might be better for everyone. So I did this, right? So there was an opportunity where I did extra work on my own time and then transformed that into compensation. I did this briefly for one project, but just as an example. I think most people probably find themselves in a situation where they're not doing this for compensation, though. So then if we think about this scenario, what this relationship means is, like, is this a temporary thing? Is this an extra project to push through, right? Is it like a seasonal thing that's temporary, we got to push through? And then what? Are you expecting visibility for it? Are you expecting that this is going to demonstrate, hey, look, you've done extra work, like, pat on the back, that's going to help with promotion? Like, what is your expectation for doing this? Because I think, personally, aside from the work-life balance, the expectation that you have for doing this work compared to the reality of it is going to be the biggest opportunity for frustration. Okay, so what I mean by that is, if you're like, okay, I've been trying to work towards my senior promotion at work. I'm just making up a scenario, right? I'm trying to work towards that, and now I'm finding, okay, there's some extra stuff that could be done outside of working hours, like it's additional, and like, that might be good, because if I do that, that's going to look like I'm trying harder. It's going to look like I'm in more projects, or like, you name whatever thing you want, okay? And in your mind, you're now correlating it to, okay, this is going to be great because I want to get promoted. I think all these things line up for that. Like, how could they possibly say no if I go do this? Okay? Then you go do the thing, then you don't get promoted, and then you're like, what the hell's going on here? This is bullshit, and then it feels terrible. So I think that if you have an expectation, verify it, right? Don't just make assumptions about it. If you're like, this is going to be something that I think will help me get promoted, go have a conversation about it. Because if that's your only motivator for doing it, truly, and you're talking to your manager and they're like, that's completely unrelated, that might be good, like, for you to grow with some skills in general for your career, but that's not going to, like, tie into promotion, right? I'm just, like, the thing that you're going to go help with is, like, I don't know, some other technology, and, like, that might be great to learn about, but, like, that's not even what we're doing here. So, like, good for you if you want to go learn that stuff, but not going to advance promotion for you. If you were like, okay, well, the only reason I wanted to do that was for promotion, like, maybe don't do it then. And at least you confirmed that up front. You avoided the heartache and the frustration, and you just dodged it. So you could do this for anything, right? If you're like, oh, I bet you they're going to give me a bonus for that, or I bet you, because I'm at a startup, they're going to give me some extra stock for that. Like, don't make assumptions. I think it's too easy for us to invent that kind of stuff in our head because we're trying to rationalize it, and we're like, like, that would certainly look good, or if I were the other person, this is what I would do. But you are not the other person. But you don't make those decisions, right? Who does? They do. So if you have an assumption, go verify it first. And if you're like, oh, that's going to be too awkward, I don't know how to bring that up. Well, like, I'll just say this. What's worse? You go have this potentially awkward conversation where you're like, hey, I'm willing to go do this, but I have some expectations around this that I'd like to validate with you. Is that more awkward than you not getting the promotion that you were hell-bent on and invested all this extra time because you thought it was going to happen, and now you're like, you hate your manager? I don't know. Like, I feel like the first one kind of sucks, right? Because it's uncomfortable. But, like, I don't know. It seems like if you just do it, then you can get it out of the way. Whereas the other one's kind of like, it's not even in your control. At that point, it's someone else who's made a decision and you're kind of on the receiving end of it. So I would encourage you to do the former. So yeah, compensation-wise, promotion-wise, I think these types of things are important to consider. But make sure that your expectations are validated. Next thing I wanted to mention, because I think this is in the post, the person mentions like, so I go do this extra work. I guess a couple things, right? One is like, does this just become the new norm? So on that note, if you had your expectations validated, okay, so let's talk about it from a compensation perspective. Someone's like, yes, we are willing to compensate you for this extra work. If that becomes the new norm and you continue to be compensated for it, like for example, we use the project scenario that I explained earlier that I went through. If it was like, hey, there's another project, you seemed interested, do you want to do this other one? Same agreement, or we can negotiate it or something. Maybe that's not a bad thing if that's the new norm, right? Like, I wanted that, maybe I want it again, but at least it's an option. That could be kind of cool. If it's about promotions, the reality is, this is what I would just have to say about it. If you are doing extra work on the side to try and bridge the gap to get the promotion, this could be a little bit more dangerous because when you get the promotion, your expectations, or the expectations of you rather, are set higher. If the only way that you could achieve that and sustain it was by doing more extra work on the side, the expectations of you have now increased because you've received your promotion from doing this stuff. What's going to happen when you stop? Did you change fundamentally how you're doing work to find a better way to sustain this? Or are you now cutting into, oh, that's a bad accident over there. Yikes. The car, like, is not facing the right direction. I don't know how that happened. If you haven't found a way to, like, sustain that without the extra time and effort, now that the bar is set higher, like, how do you plan to maintain that higher bar? And if you're still set on more advancement in your career, how do you plan to go even further? If you've already kind of tapped into, like, your personal time to get more done or to get better work done, whatever it happens to be, it might be a sustainability problem. I'm not saying, like, there's no recovery from that or you're screwed. Just something to think about, right? Like, if you had to do that, what is going to change now? Now, in both of those scenarios, I was talking about you being sort of compensated in some way, right? Either financially or through promotion. I think this scenario gets even worse if you are not being compensated for the extra work in any way, right? So you're just doing the extra stuff. It's not accruing to promotion. It's not accruing to like performance rewards, because that's different than promotion technically. For more junior levels, and when I say junior, I just mean there's still a large spectrum of levels. Generally, like, higher performance is tied with, sort of promotion that goes along with it. At some level, this is kind of a little bit blurry depending on what companies and stuff you're talking about, you can be achieving high performance for your level and still not doing what is expected of you of the next level. That starts to become more of a separate thing. So you might maybe do this work and it is leading to better performance rewards, but not for promotion. Or maybe it's neither. And if it's neither and you're doing this extra stuff You're sacrificing your own time. I think there is a much greater risk of this becoming the new norm from two directions. One, perhaps your manager or employer now just starts expecting this of you. This is what you do. And when you stop, it's like, well, what's going on? Or not even from your manager's perspective, you might think, because you never clarified the expectations, you might think, hey, I have to do all this stuff to sustain my growth, or this is definitely going to accrue to promotion or performance rewards, so I just got to keep doing it. And you won't take your foot off the gas now. So you've now created a new norm for yourself. So I think this is a very real problem, and I think that you need to, again, have the conversation about those expectations. This is like the core of like every video I've ever made is get aligned expectations. Okay, the other thing that I wanted to talk about was, because it's an interesting point that I think the OP made, is that, so you're going to go do this extra work. If it's not the same work that you've already been assigned, right? It's kind of like, the example I gave from my experience was like, I'm going to go do some prototyping work. Let me go build the thing that you want to see come to life on the side. So that's a very, we came up with an agreement for that. But if you were just doing extra stuff on the side that's not your core work, like, does that actually create a problem? Even in my situation, if I handed that back to the CTO and said, hey, look, here's a working prototype, if immediately he just went, great, now how do we start selling it? Right? Like, there's other parts to the business, the sales, the marketing, the tech support, the documentation, confidence with the team that has to support it. I'm just one dude, right? Fortunately, that worked out very well for the transition back to a core team that would take that and run with it. It was a prototype that they didn't have to rewrite, which is awesome. So got lucky that way. I want to say maybe a little bit more than luck, maybe some skill, I don't know. But the reality is, when you do extra stuff and it's not just the work that was planned for, this can create downstream effects that might be negative. Right? If I kept doing what I was explaining from my situation, all of a sudden now there's more of a burden on the other parts of the business. And then I go whip up another prototype and I say, thank you so much for the pay on that. And then they go, okay, great. Now we have to go get this next one shipped. And then all of the team has to get ramped up in supporting it, the sales, the marketing, it just creates more downstream work. This guy's got to let me in. Come on, man. Stupid people, man. It's like specifically getting into the spot that I had to merge. You see me with the signal when you speed up to block me. Better make sure you can drive faster than me. So in this person's situation, I don't know if that's the case where they're sort of creating more work now. But I think that could be something that creates some friction. Is this person going to drive or just stop or what? You're pressing your brakes for no reason. Okay. So there's already a lot of factors there to consider, right? I don't think that there is a single right answer to this. I know, can I relate to any recent examples without kind of disclosing? Okay, I'll walk through, so I've been talking for months now about this big project. It ended up getting delayed an extra month, and that's not because it was late, just a We needed a week extension for putting together a presentation, and that caused everything to be shifted a month. That's coming up very soon to finally wrap up. But there have been periods of this project where I am absolutely working like very late, weekends, you name it, like absolutely not sustainable. Come on. And one of the sort of things that I learned along the way when working on this project is like, for me, when I took on this project, this was something where I was like, hey, going back to aligning expectations, what I have been sort of pushed in the direction of was like, this is going to be a really good project to have success on, to be able to line up for promotion. Makes sense. It's a huge project. It's cross team, like my entire team plus another team. It's like planned to be multi-month, ridiculously big impact. Like it checks a ton of boxes. So it was like, this will be a really good one. I need someone to lead it. And I'm like, yep, that's me. Great stuff. So, really grateful for the opportunity, but I learned partway through that this is like, it is not accruing to promotion, because what is basically the feedback that I was given is completely unrelated to this. In fact, the thing that I'm doing best at is stuff like this project. So it's almost like, you're already doing this, we already have evidence of this, but there's these other things to go look for. So what's really difficult in a situation like this from a motivation perspective is, if I was doing this project and if it was just during my working hours, okay, no sweat, right? This is what I've been assigned, it's got to get done, keep going. But the fact is that this project involves so much extra time outside of my normal hours. Like, I have to work with people in China, so I have to be up later at night. I have to work with people in Europe, so I have to be up early in the morning. And then I have to coordinate across all of these teams, or like feature crews and project areas, which is just like an extra thing I have to plan for to get things done. Then there's document writing, there's presentation creation. These are all things that are like kind of extra. And they take up a ton of my personal time. So if we think back to what I was saying, it's like, it's not tied to promotion. So that's not a good motivator there. It's not tied to, like, I'm not getting compensated for it. Maybe what will happen is like, and I won't know this until months from now, maybe this translates into like, not promotion, but, performance rewards. Like, that's cool. But to be honest, like, to me, it doesn't, if I would have known what I know now before this project, it would have made far more sense to me to go take all of this time and energy and invest it into things that would advance my career, not just a performance bonus for the year. One of those things moves me forward in my career in terms of advancement. Like, I want to be in a position where I can manage managers, because I've been doing this for 13 years. So, like, if I'm 5 years at Microsoft without moving at all in that direction, like, it's time. Like, I need to start investing into the career growth part, not just like here's, money's great, but like, that's not enough motivation for me. It would be the wrong investment. So this is me kind of learn late in the project. Now, the reality is, though, from my perspective, I'm not gonna, once hearing that news about this is not going to accrue to promotion, I'm not going to just like give up on the project or go, oh, I guess I'm not going to work late. Like, I have now set the expectation for myself, and like I feel like I've set the expectation for the people working on the project. I will finish this project out operating at the same level, regardless of that feedback that was given to me. I will not change how I operate on this project. Some might say, well, that's stupid, right? You've already been told you're not going to get anything more for this. You've already looked at the trade, and so why would you? And that's just how I am. Like, I want to go deliver on this. This is how I've been operating, and that's how it is. I mentioned this second project that came up, and I don't tell the details about some of the projects because it's proprietary or private. And for that one, even, arguably, there's elements to that could help accrue to promotion. I guess we will see. But this is one of those things where it's like, it starts to feel like a very bad trade. Let's put it that way. When you're already very burnt out, and then you have to start adding in, like, this is outside of work, but it's work related, it starts to feel like a bad trade in terms of time. I am not a stranger to this because I've lived my entire career trading personal time for work. But at some point, like when I was getting, more stock and stuff, I'm like, hey, this feels like a pretty decent trade. But at some point, if I'm not being compensated for it, I start to go, well, who's making the trade? So these are things that I think you need to consider in this type of situation, but I think it's going to be scenario by scenario. So hope that helps. Sorry for the little rant at the end. See you next time. Take care.